In the velvet darkness, under the silent gaze of the moon, a world unknown to us pulsates with life, drama, and conflict. Tonight we journey into this miniature kingdom, where the rustle of leaves sounds like thunder and a single drop of dew is an ocean. This is the story of two great empires, the black ants of the Onyx Mound and the red fire ants of the Crimson Horde. For generations they shared this small patch of earth, a fragile peace maintained by unspoken boundaries and a mutual respect for each other's strength. But peace, as we know, is a delicate thing. The Onyx Mound was a marvel of insect engineering. A bustling metropolis built grain by grain, tunnel by tunnel, over countless seasons. Deep within its labyrinthine corridors, a civilization thrived. Nurseries were filled with precious eggs, tended to by dedicated workers. Vast chambers stored the bounty of their foraging seeds, nectar, and the sweet honeydew milked from their aphid herds. The queen, the heart and soul of the colony, resided in the deepest, most protected sanctum, her existence ensuring the future of her lineage. Life was orderly, purposeful, and secure. Or so they believed. But beyond the borders of their territory, envy and ambition were taking root. The Crimson Horde, a nomadic and aggressive faction, watched the prosperity of the Onyx Mound with covetous eyes. Their leader, a formidable matriarch with a reputation for ruthless efficiency, saw the black ants' stability not as a sign of strength, but as a weakness to be exploited. Their stores of food were a prize, their territory a strategic asset. A plan, as dark and silent as the coming night, began to form. A plan not of conquest, but of annihilation. The night chosen for the attack was moonless, the world cloaked in an impenetrable black. Under this cover, the first wave of the Crimson Horde advanced. They weren't soldiers marching to battle. They were saboteurs, shadows moving with a singular, terrifying purpose. They carried no weapons, for their weapon was nature's most primal force, fire. Each ant clutched a dry pine needle, a tiny torch harvested from the forest floor. They approached the Onyx Mound from all sides, a silent encircling tide of red. Inside the mound, the black ants were oblivious. The night shift was underway, guards patrolled the entrances, workers processed the day's harvest, and nurses gently cared for the young. The air was thick with the familiar sense of earth, pheromones, and community. It was the smell of home. They had no reason to suspect the betrayal brewing just outside their walls. The ancient truce had held for so long, it had become a law of nature in their minds. The signal was a subtle shift in the air, a chemical command issued by the Red Queen's vanguard. As one, the red ants ignited their torches. Using the friction of rubbing their legs against the dry needles, a technique honed through generations of destructive warfare, sparks flew. Tiny embers glowed in the darkness, then erupted into miniature flames. The circle of fire around the Onyx Mound was complete. They plunged their torches into the dry grass and leaves piled at the base of the anthill's entrances. Fire, the great purifier, the ultimate destroyer. To the miniature world of the ants, it was an apocalypse. The flames caught instantly, climbing the walls of the mound with terrifying speed. The dry, ventilated structure of the anthill acted like a chimney, pulling the inferno inward. Smoke, thick and acrid, poured into the tunnels, a toxic phantom seeking out life. The first sign of disaster for the black ants was not the sight of flames, but this choking, blinding smoke. Panic erupted. The orderly society dissolved into chaos. Alarms were sounded, frantic pheromone signals screaming, danger, fire, death. All at once. Workers dropped their food stores, nurses abandoned the larvae, and soldiers, trained for combat with rival insects, were utterly helpless against this new, formless enemy. The heat intensified, baking the very earth of their home. Tunnels collapsed, blocking escape routes. The sounds of a thriving city were replaced by the crackle of fire and the silent, desperate scramble of a million tiny feet. From a safe distance, the Crimson Horde watched the fruits of their treachery. They watched as their rivals, once so proud and organized, were reduced to a frantic, terrified mob. They saw black ants emerging from the flaming entrances, their bodies singed, their antennae drooping in despair, only to be met by the waiting jaws of the red soldiers. It was not a battle. It was a massacre, a calculated, cold-blooded extermination. The Black Ant Queen, deep within her royal chamber, felt the tremors and the rising heat. Her guards, loyal to the last, formed a living shield around her, but they were powerless against the suffocating smoke and the collapsing earth. The heart of the colony was dying. For the workers, the loss was total. Their home, their food, their young, their queen, their entire world was being consumed by fire. Every tunnel held a memory, every chamber a purpose. Now, it was all turning to ash. This wasn't just the loss of a physical structure. It was the erasure of their history, their culture, their future. As dawn broke, the smoldering ruin of the Onyx Mound was all that remained. A blackened scar on the landscape, emitting a faint haze of smoke, the once great metropolis was a tomb. The Crimson Horde, their grim work complete, surveyed the devastation before moving in to pick through the spoils, any remaining food stores that had survived the inferno. Their victory was absolute. But it was not. From the ashes, a few survivors emerged. Battered, traumatized, and few in number, these were the remnants of the Onyx Mound. They had lost everything: their home, their brothers, their sisters, their queen. They were a nation without a country, a family without a home. As they gathered in the shadow of their fallen city, a new feeling began to replace the shock and grief. It was a cold, hard resolve. A burning ember of hatred that the fire could not extinguish. They looked at their ruined home and then to the horizon where the Crimson Horde had marched. They were no longer just survivors, they were avengers. Their singular purpose, once the prosperity of their colony, was now something far darker, far more powerful: vengeance. Monumental, all-consuming vengeance. They would rebuild, not with the goal of creating a new home, but of forging a weapon. They would become the living embodiment of the night their world burned. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new, bloodier chapter. The tale of the Onyx survivors and their quest for revenge would become a legend whispered on the wind. A warning to all who dared to underestimate the power of a spirit that has lost everything. In the great, unending war of the miniature world, the night of red betrayal was not a conclusion, but a catalyst. The seeds of a future conflict more terrible than any that had come before had been sown in the ashes. The world of the ants would never be the same. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of nature's hidden dramas. The stories unfolding beneath our feet are as epic as any in human history. If you found this tale as captivating as we did, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories from the natural world. Let us know in the comments what other miniature epics you'd like to see. Until next time, keep exploring.